100 years ago, the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire killed 146 garment workers here in New York City. Every year, our union doesn't celebrate that fact. We memorialize that fact and we commemorate that fact. But over 100 years later, we're still dealing with the fact that, as Brian Ross said, one of the most dangerous jobs in the world is running a sewing machine. And we're not talking about carpal tunnel syndrome. We're talking about burning alive. We're talking about jumping to your death to avoid burning alive in fire. In the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire, public outrage and union organizing led to important life-saving regulations like mandatory fire escapes and unlocked doors. It also spurred the growth of the International Lady Garment Workers Union, one of the predecessor unions of Workers United. This prize goes to all the garment workers risking their lives, speaking up for safety and health in Bangladesh, speaking up for survival in Bangladesh. And in particular, though, we do want to recognize the memory of Aminul Islam. Aminul was a garment worker, was a labor organizer, helping the Bangladeshi workers organize for fire and building safety measures. I'm concerned about the fact that I have to speak about him in the past tense. Aminul helped Brian Ross and ABC News and other media outlets get the story out about the factory fire in 2010, where only 29 people died. Why am I speaking of him in the past tense? Shortly after the stories aired, he was found on a roadside. He'd been tortured and he'd been murdered. We all know that when people are struggling for their rights against powerful forces, that the kind of media attention and focus that we honor in the Hillman Awards is critical. And in our movement, the movement for justice for working people around the world, this media attention can only happen when workers are willing to speak out and take huge, life-risking risks. Those individuals who are often classified as ordinary people then become truly extraordinary. And with this award, we want to honor the bravery and the sacrifices of all Bangladeshi garment workers, and this prize money will go to support their work. For many years, as Cleola said, labor rights groups around the world have advocated for a comprehensive set of fire and building safety reforms in Bangladesh. And we must now demand that major brands and retailers commit to implementing these life-saving reforms. I'm not talking about asking them to do it. I'm not talking about requesting that they do it. We have to demand that we do it, and we have to do that in the streets, in front of their retail stores, in front of their corporate headquarters, and we have to insist that lives be saved in Bangladesh and around the world. It was reported about Calvin Klein and Tommy Hilfiger and Chibo signing the Bangladesh Fire and Building Safety Agreement that embodies in many ways, in some ways, these reforms. But this agreement will only work if all of the brands and retailers are compelled to sign off and go by these guidelines, and it's up to us to insist that they do so. Recently, Kalpona Akhtar, who leads the Workers' Center where Aminul worked, and Shumi Abedin, a survivor of the 2012 Tazreen factory fire, came to the U.S. on a tour to publicize the Fire and Building Safety Agreement. Kalpona already has spent extensive time in prison for her work on behalf of labor rights, and she faces additional unsubstantiated charges that could result in years, possibly decades of imprisonment. I don't have that kind of courage. I don't know if you do, but I admire her and I honor her and the work of all of her workers that she represents. The foundation this year presented the Officers' Awards to Kalpona and Shumi on April 17th while they were in New York City. Exactly 1 week later, the factory in Dhaka collapsed, murdering uncountable, untold garment workers. Here are some excerpts from the interview on April 17th with Kalpona and Shumi.
We really like to thank to the foundation that even you people thought about this this prize that you wanted to give us, and I really thank from bottom of my heart that you mentioned the Aminul name. I hate to be emotional, I don't want it to be, but this will give we will keep remember all this. This will keep remember Aminul's and his work that he was doing in Bangladesh, doing for our center and helping workers. On 7th, early in the morning, Aminul's family called us and said they saw a little picture, like a 1-inch size picture in a local newspaper. And it says that one body has been found at 100 kilometers away from where he disappeared. And they believe it is Aminul. He has been brutally tortured and beaten to the death. It's because he was organizing union. Because he was asking for safe working place, because he was asking for decent ways for workers. I started to smell the smoke, and that was coming from downstairs, and we understood there's a fire in the factory and got panic and was crying and tried to escape from the factory and ran to the door and found the doors are locked with padlock. I saw that some workers trying to remove the window bar. I wanted to jump because if I would be in the factory, my family will not even find my body. So I thought I can jump and at least my parent can identify my body. So when I jumped, I found my right leg and left arm is not working, it's broken. 1 year I cannot work at the factory. I know that there was a fire 100 years back in a factory, Triangle Shirtwaist, where we lost 146 our colleague. This 100 years later, we are talking same thing and same issue in Bangladesh. This greedy corporation, they did not improve anything. We are in a tour called End Debt Trap. In this tour, we are giving message to the consumers and we are asking these retailers who are sourcing from Tajreen to pay the compensation to these workers, these 112 who died in this fire. And the second and big call is to them for a long-term changes that they should sign the fire safety MOU. That will ensure to prevent the future death and fire accident in Bangladesh. This really means so much to us, and of course it goes to the other fighters who are fighting in Bangladesh to improve the working condition, to have the decent wages for workers and have union boys in the factories. So this is a lot to us. Many thanks for even thinking about this to giving us. We are really proud to having this.